When we think of vitamins, we think of health, strength, immunity, energy, and we assume that if something is natural or labeled as essential, then more must be better. But the truth is, the human body operates on precision, not popularity. And when you take certain vitamins in the wrong dosage, timing, or form, you're not building health, you're slowly dismantling it, especially in one of the most overlooked and vital systems of your body, your legs. Your neuromuscular strength, your mobility, your ability to walk with power, with balance, with confidence, these are being quietly sabotaged by three commonly praised vitamins. Vitamin E, the overdose that weakens your muscles. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant. It protects your cells from oxidative stress, which is good. But here's what most people don't know. High doses of synthetic vitamin E, especially in isolated alpha-tocopherol form, can deplete other forms of vitamin E that are equally, if not more, essential to neuromuscular health. Studies from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders show that an imbalance in tocopherols can create neuromuscular dysfunction, particularly in the legs. Why? Because alpha-tocopherol, when oversupplemented, suppresses gamma-tocopherol, an essential component in muscle protection and inflammation modulation. This means that too much vitamin E doesn't just fail to help, it actively contributes to leg weakness, cramping, and even balance issues. And if you're taking it with the intention of supporting your heart or boosting immunity, but you're not moving regularly, you're just compounding the oxidative mismatch in your body. The fix is simple: stop megadosing isolated vitamin E. If you must take it, opt for a mixed tocopherol complex and never exceed 150 U unless directed by a medical professional who understands your full nutrient panel. Vitamin D, the sunlight vitamin that can harm your muscles without magnesium. Vitamin D is essential for calcium absorption, immune function, and even mood regulation. But here's the catch: taking high doses of vitamin D without magnesium creates a chain reaction that depletes your body's ability to manage calcium correctly. When vitamin D goes up and magnesium is not present in sufficient amounts, calcium begins to precipitate in soft tissues, particularly around the joints and muscles. This can cause stiffness, pain, and cramping, especially in your legs where blood flow and muscular activity are highly dynamic. There's a strong correlation in the literature between vitamin D toxicity and leg muscle pain, often misdiagnosed as fibromyalgia or sciatica. But the real root cause, a calcium-magnesium imbalance triggered by unbuffered vitamin D supplementation. Magnesium is the cofactor that activates vitamin D. Without it, you're essentially pouring fuel into the system without a spark plug. And the result isn't energy, it's dysfunction. If you're taking over 2,000 U of vitamin D daily, you should also be ensuring magnesium levels are optimal, preferably through magnesium glycinate or magnesium threonate, which are well absorbed and support neuromuscular function. Vitamin B6, the nerve destroyer at high doses. This one surprises people. Vitamin B6 is necessary for neurotransmitter synthesis. Things like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA depend on it. But unlike other B vitamins, B6 is not water-soluble in the same way. It can build up in your system. And once it accumulates, especially in doses over 200 mg a day, begins to attack your peripheral nerves. That includes the sensory nerves in your legs, leading to tingling, burning, numbness, and eventually muscle weakening. Clinically, this is called vitamin B6-induced peripheral neuropathy, and it can masquerade as diabetic neuropathy, restless leg syndrome, or general aging. But it's not age, it's not sugar, it's not stress. It's simply too much B6 in supplement form, particularly from energy drinks, fortified foods, and over-the-counter brain-boosting stacks. The safe upper limit is 100 mg per day, but many people are taking double or triple that without realizing it. And the consequences are significant. If you're experiencing strange sensations in your legs, pins and needles, weakness, or numbness, go check your supplement labels. Look for pyridoxine H-col, that's the form often responsible for toxicity. A safer, biologically active alternative is P5-pyridoxal 5-phosphate, and even then, stay within bounds. We live in a world where health advice is everywhere on social media, in marketing campaigns, even on the back of your cereal box. And one of the loudest messages you hear is this: take more vitamins, boost your immune system, support your energy, protect your heart, guard your brain. And somewhere along the way, this subtle lie crept in: if a little is good, then more must be better. But your biology doesn't work that way. Your nervous system doesn't operate by the rules of popularity or trend. It operates by precision. Precision in signaling, precision in balance, precision in timing. And when you ignore that, when you overload the system thinking you're giving it power, what you're actually doing is inviting dysfunction. Your body isn't a warehouse for nutrients. It's a living, dynamic ecosystem. It absorbs, processes, and utilizes what it needs, and it does this through incredibly complex feedback loops. The enzymes in your liver, the receptors in your gut, the neurotransmitters in your brain, they all speak to each other in a language of exactness. When that language gets drowned out by megadoses of isolated compounds, the message gets distorted. You don't enhance your performance. You scramble the signal. And when that happens over time, especially with vitamins you thought were healthy, the body's most active systems, like the ones powering your legs, are often the first to show signs of breakdown. Why the legs? Because they're neurologically dense. Because they rely on rapid, efficient communication between your brain, spinal cord, and muscles. Because they're constantly adjusting for balance, gravity, and motion. You can't afford miscommunication in that system. You can't afford delayed signaling or impaired muscle contraction because a supplement interfered with your electrolyte balance or damaged a nerve ending. And yet, that's exactly what's happening across millions of bodies because we've traded knowledge for noise. We've traded precision for popularity. Let's talk about what precision means. It means knowing not just what you're taking, but why you're taking it. It means understanding the half-life of a vitamin, the cofactors it requires to work properly, and the downstream effects it has on systems you might not even be thinking about. Take vitamin D, for example. Yes, it's essential. Yes, it supports immune health and bone density. But did you know it competes with vitamin A for receptor space? Did you know that without adequate magnesium, vitamin D will actually increase your risk of soft tissue calcification, especially in your legs, where circulation is under higher pressure during standing and movement? That's not hypothetical. That's biochemistry. That's data. Precision also means respecting the difference between synthetic and natural forms of vitamins. It's not just what's on the label, it's how your body recognizes and uses it. Synthetic alpha-tocopherol, the most common form of vitamin E in supplements, doesn't behave the same way as the natural mixed tocopherols found in real food. In fact, it can suppress the absorption of gamma-tocopherol, a form critical for reducing inflammation in muscle tissues. That means if you're taking a high-dose heart health vitamin E, you may actually be lowering your muscular resilience and recovery, especially after physical exertion. And when your legs are fatigued, when your gait is unstable, when your balance is compromised, you don't need a better multivitamin. You need a better understanding of precision. This concept applies to B vitamins, too, especially B6. It's sold as a brain booster, an energy enhancer, a hormonal regulator, and in small amounts, it plays those roles beautifully. But at high doses, especially in the synthetic form pyridoxine hydrochloride, B6 becomes a neurotoxin. Not metaphorically, literally. It accumulates in peripheral nerves and interferes with sensory signaling. That's why people taking excess B6 often report numbness, tingling, or burning in their legs and feet. They think they're developing neuropathy from age or diabetes or poor circulation. But often it's just an overdose of something they thought was healthy. And this is the core of the problem. The wellness industry doesn't teach you how vitamins work in context. It teaches you to isolate, to add, to stack, to combine. But your body doesn't thrive on stacking. It thrives on synergy. One vitamin doesn't function in a vacuum. It operates in a complex network of cofactors, hormones, enzymes, and pathways. Vitamin A balances vitamin D, magnesium balances calcium, zinc competes with copper. And iron? Iron interacts with oxidative stress in ways that can either support your energy or break your system down. Precision means knowing this. Popularity ignores it. When you take a popular health supplement without understanding its mechanism of action, you're not optimizing your health, you're gambling with it. You're placing a bet that your body will adapt. But adaptation has limits. And when that threshold is crossed, the consequences are silent at first. A little fatigue in your legs, a slight tremor when you stand, an occasional cramp at night. You think it's just stress or dehydration or age. But it's your body signaling that something is off. Something isn't matching up. The system is overloaded, and it's time to stop treating the symptom and start identifying the source. Precision begins with awareness. Awareness that health isn't just about doing what others are doing, it's about doing what your body actually needs. Not based on a trending reel, not based on a glowing product review, but based on measurable markers, on biological principles, on informed choices. That's how you build resilience. That's how you protect your legs, your foundation of movement, strength, and independence. Precision also means restraint. It means resisting the urge to oversupplement just because the bottle says immune support or energy boost. It means recognizing that most vitamins, when sourced through a balanced diet, do their job best in small, steady amounts. Overloading doesn't accelerate healing, it distorts function. The liver can't process infinite input. The kidneys can't filter unlimited waste. The nervous system can't compensate forever for poor nutrient timing or dosage. Eventually, the signs show up in your balance, in your coordination, in your muscle tone. And if you're not paying attention, you won't trace it back to the cause. You'll just accept decline as destiny. But it's not. It's a choice. Precision is a choice. A choice to get tested before supplementing. A choice to ask deeper questions. A choice to cycle your supplements, to give your system time to breathe in, recalibrate. A choice to prioritize movement, sleep, and sunlight before reaching for a pill. Because no supplement can replace a healthy rhythm, and no vitamin can undo the damage caused by its misuse. We talk a lot about optimization today, biohacking, performance upgrades, longevity strategies, but the foundation of optimization is understanding it's not about how many products you can stack. It's about how efficiently your system is operating. And the legs, your largest muscle group, your most neurologically rich region, will be one of the first indicators of whether your internal system is optimized or overwhelmed. So before you add another vitamin to your routine, ask yourself, am I doing this because I understand my biology or because I saw a headline? Am I supporting my system with accuracy or drowning it with overcorrection? Is this helping me move better, think clearer, live stronger, or is it just adding to the noise? The answers won't come from marketing. They'll come from data, from testing, from reflection. They'll come from paying attention to how your body responds, not just in the short-term energy spike, but in the long-term capacity to stand, walk, run, and recover without pain, fatigue, or failure. Because real health is not about extremes. It's not about pouring more into the system. It's about creating the right balance, the right rhythm, the right conditions for strength to arise from within. And when you understand that, when you stop chasing popularity and start choosing precision, you don't just protect your legs, you empower every part of your life to function at its highest potential. Vitamin E is one of those supplements that seems to live under a halo. It's labeled as an antioxidant. It's linked to heart health, skin repair, eye protection, immune support. But when something gets praised too much in the world of wellness, it often becomes misunderstood. People stop questioning the details. They stop looking at the nuances, the pathways, the consequences. They take what is helpful in a measured amount and assume it will do more good in larger quantities. But biology doesn't reward that assumption. In fact, when it comes to vitamin E, that assumption can turn dangerous, especially for your muscles, and especially in your legs where mobility, power, and endurance live or die by the integrity of your muscle fibers. Vitamin E is not one thing. It's a family of 8 fat-soluble compounds, 4 tocopherols and 4 decotrienols. The most common one in supplements is alpha-tocopherol. That's the one you'll find in most multivitamins and antioxidant formulas. It's the one scientists first isolated and studied, so naturally it became the poster child for vitamin E. But here's the critical detail that gets missed. When you flood your body with high doses of alpha-tocopherol, you actually deplete other forms of vitamin E, especially gamma-tocopherol, which plays a vital role in reducing inflammation and maintaining muscle function. Gamma-tocopherol is a powerful protector against nitrogen-based free radicals, the kind that accumulate when muscles are overworked or injured. And while alpha-tocopherol can neutralize oxygen-based radicals, it does almost nothing for the nitrogen kind. So when you take high doses of synthetic alpha-tocopherol, especially without any accompanying gamma or delta tocopherols, you create an imbalance. You're essentially telling your system, let's mop up one kind of damage and ignore the rest. But your muscle cells don't have that luxury. They need broad spectrum defense. They need all the tocopherols working in harmony. When that harmony is disrupted, the repair mechanisms falter. Recovery slows. Microscopic tears in the muscle fibers take longer to heal. And over time, the tissue weakens. Now think about your legs. Think about what they endure in a single day standing, walking, climbing stairs, lifting, running, stabilizing. These muscles aren't just big, they're active, constantly recruited, constantly signaling back and forth between the peripheral nervous system and the central command in the brain. When inflammation goes up, when oxidative stress increases, when micro damages are repaired efficiently, the legs are where those cracks in the system show up first. Cramps, spasms, chronic tightness, reduced explosive strength, all these can stem from underlying disruptions in muscle integrity. And often people misinterpret the cause. They look at their hydration, their electrolyte intake, their training volume. But few look at their supplement cabinet. Few realize that a daily 400U capsule of alpha-tocopherol could be slowly stripping their muscle fibers of resilience. It's not that vitamin E is bad, it's that vitamin E, like any biological compound, works within a system, and systems thrive on balance, not overload. The liver regulates how much alpha-tocopherol gets retained in the blood. It actually prefers gamma tocopherol for certain functions, but when there's too much alpha present, it selectively retains that and excretes the rest. That means your body might be flushing out the exact forms of vitamin E your muscle tissue needs simply because you're overwhelming it with one form. This selective retention process is backed by decades of biochemical research. Yet the supplement industry rarely tells you that, because it's simpler, more profitable, and more marketable to label something as heart-healthy or antioxidant-rich than to explain the delicate choreography of tocopherol interaction in your neuromuscular system. And what happens when you keep taking high-dose alpha tocopherol over time? Studies have shown that not only does it impair muscle repair, but it can also reduce endurance and strength, especially in older adults. People who think they're protecting their hearts might actually be accelerating muscle atrophy. It's subtle at first. You notice your legs feel a little heavier after workouts. You recover slower. You're more prone to strains and aches, but over months and years, that degradation adds up. It reduces your functional range of motion. It affects posture. It throws off your balance. And when your balance is compromised, your fall risk goes up, your mobility goes down, your independence begins to erode. This is not fear-based science. This is reality-based neurobiology. Your muscles depend on integrity, structural, chemical, and electrical. Every fiber must contract on command, recover when stressed, and adapt when challenged. That process requires a carefully maintained oxidative balance. Too much oxidative stress damages cells, but too little, too aggressively neutralized by oversupplementation, impairs the signaling required for muscle adaptation. That's called hormesis, the idea that a little stress strengthens, but too much or too little creates dysfunction. When you take too much vitamin E, especially in its isolated alpha form, you disrupt that hormetic window. You flatten the signal your muscles use to grow stronger, and instead of building resilience, you create fragility. There's also the issue of interaction. Vitamin E doesn't act alone. It works alongside selenium, vitamin C, coenzyme Q10, and even omega-3 fatty acids. These molecules form part of the body's antioxidant network. When you take one in high doses without the others, you disrupt the rhythm of that network. It's like tuning one instrument in an orchestra to play louder than all the rest. The harmony is lost, and in your muscles, that imbalance manifests as dysfunction, subtle at first, but compounding over time. Your legs are particularly vulnerable because of their size, their constant use, and their dependence on neuromuscular coordination. Even a slight lag in communication between nerve and fiber can reduce your stride efficiency, your jump height, your ability to stabilize during complex movements. And this doesn't just affect athletes, it affects everyone. Older adults who take vitamin E for general health might find themselves more prone to instability. People recovering from injuries might wonder why their legs feel weak despite doing all the right rehab work. The missing variable might not be effort, it might be excess. Precision matters. Dose matters. Form matters. And the form most people are taking, synthetic alpha tocopherol, is the least supportive of muscle recovery and the most disruptive to tocopherol balance. Let's get even more specific. The recommended dietary allowance, RDA, for vitamin E is around 15 mg, or 22.4 U per day. Many supplements contain 400 IU, nearly 20 times the requirement. That's not optimization. That's overcorrection. The liver doesn't know how to regulate that surplus effectively, especially when taken daily over months or years. And if you're not getting adequate gamma tocopherol from food like nuts, seeds, and leafy greens, you're not offsetting that imbalance. So the damage continues quietly, gradually, under the radar of standard lab tests and superficial symptoms. It's time to shift the mindset. Stop thinking in terms of more is better. Start thinking in terms of what's necessary, what's synergistic, and what's sustainable. Your legs are more than just limbs. They're your foundation for action. They are where your nervous system meets the real world, where intention becomes movement, where strength becomes presence. Don't undermine that foundation by overloading it with something you were told was safe. Understand how that safe compound works. Understand its context, its cofactors, its consequences. If you've been taking high-dose vitamin E, especially in isolation, it's worth reevaluating. Consider your muscle recovery. Consider your endurance. Consider the silent signals your legs might be giving you: stiffness, tightness, reduced performance. Then connect the dots. Your body is intelligent. It's always adapting, but it can't adapt to imbalance forever. At some point, the system will break down, not because you didn't care, but because you weren't given the full picture. This is that picture. And it's not meant to scare you. It's meant to equip you, to shift your thinking from quantity to quality, from blind supplementation to informed optimization. Because your muscles deserve more than good intentions, they deserve the kind of precision that protects their function for life. Vitamin D has become one of the most recommended supplements on the planet. From general wellness to bone density to immune system support, it's everywhere. Doctors prescribe it, influencers promote it, labels scream it, but in all the noise, one vital truth often gets lost: vitamin D is not a solo performer. It is part of a complex, interdependent biochemical orchestra. And when you amplify one instrument, especially one as powerful as vitamin D, without tuning the others, what you get is chaos. Specifically, calcium chaos. And the conductor that holds the entire performance together: magnesium. Vitamin D's primary role in the body is to regulate calcium and phosphate metabolism. It determines how much calcium gets absorbed from your food, how much is retained, and how much is deposited into your bones. It also controls the release of calcium from the bones into the bloodstream when levels run low. But this system is not automatic. It doesn't run on autopilot. It requires cofactors, support molecules that activate, modulate, and balance its effects. And magnesium is not just a supporting actor, it's the gatekeeper. When you take vitamin D in supplement form, you are essentially commanding your body to absorb more calcium. That may sound good. After all, calcium builds bones and supports nerve conduction and muscle contraction. But more is not always better. When calcium enters the bloodstream in elevated amounts and there's no magnesium to regulate how it's distributed and stored, problems begin to unfold. Calcium starts depositing in soft tissues, arteries, joints, kidneys, where it doesn't belong. Instead of strengthening bones, it starts stiffening vessels. Instead of enhancing function, it begins clogging the system. Magnesium controls the enzymes that activate vitamin D. Without sufficient magnesium, vitamin D remains in its inactive form -25, OHD, and cannot convert to the hormonally active one, 25O2D. So when people take large doses of vitamin D but their magnesium levels are low, the vitamin D can't be used effectively. It builds up in the bloodstream, giving the illusion of sufficiency, even as dysfunction brews beneath the surface. It's like pouring high-octane fuel into a car with no engine. The tank may be full, but the power to drive transformation is missing. More importantly, magnesium acts as a buffer against calcium excess. It ensures calcium enters cells when needed and exits when not. It prevents hyperexcitability in nerve cells. It reduces spasms in muscles and maintains rhythm in the heart. All of these systems are regulated in part by the calcium-magnesium ratio. Tip that ratio too far in favor of calcium, and the consequences can be devastating. High blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, cramping, anxiety, even increased risk of stroke. These are not abstract outcomes. They are biologically predictable when magnesium is depleted and calcium is unrestrained. Now consider what happens when someone begins supplementing with high-dose vitamin D, believing they're doing the right thing. They feel more energy at first. They may notice mood improvements, fewer colds. But then the subtler symptoms creep in: tightness in the chest, restlessness, muscle twitching, trouble sleeping, occasional heart palpitations. They go to the doctor, labs come back normal. Maybe they're told it's stress or aging. But beneath the surface, calcium is accumulating where it shouldn't, and magnesium is being drained trying to compensate. And no one is looking at that relationship because the system doesn't present a red flag until it's too late. There's a phenomenon in medicine known as functional deficiency. It means you may have enough of a nutrient in your bloodstream, but your body can't use it properly because the cofactors required to activate it are missing. Vitamin D without magnesium is a classic example. You see the number on the lab test? You think you're good, but the downstream pathways are stalled, the enzymes aren't firing, the signaling is delayed, and your physiology is quietly entering a state of rigidity instead of resilience. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, many of which relate directly to neuromuscular function, cardiovascular stability, and cellular energy. It regulates ATP, the molecule that powers every cell in your body. It balances electrolytes. It reduces inflammation, and it calms the nervous system by controlling NMDA receptor activity, which affects how neurons fire and how stress is processed. When vitamin D is introduced into a system deficient in magnesium, these pathways are not supported, they are stressed. And the result is often the opposite of what was intended. Instead of increasing wellness, you increase instability. The tragedy here is that the fix is simple but overlooked. Ensuring magnesium adequacy before and during vitamin D supplementation is not complicated. Yet the industry doesn't prioritize this message because magnesium doesn't carry the same marketing appeal. It doesn't promise radiant skin or supercharged immunity. It doesn't headline multivitamin commercials, but it's the mineral that keeps your internal symphony in tune. Without it, the melody of health turns into noise, discordant, draining, and ultimately damaging. Let's go deeper. One of the most common clinical scenarios tied to vitamin D and calcium imbalance is vascular calcification. That's when calcium begins depositing inside your blood vessels. Over time, these deposits harden, narrow the arteries, and reduce blood flow. It's a major contributor to heart disease. Studies have shown that individuals taking high doses of vitamin D, especially without magnesium and vitamin K2, have higher risks of these calcifications. Why? Because vitamin D increases calcium absorption, but without enough magnesium, the enzymes that redirect calcium to bones cannot function optimally. And when those enzymes fail, calcium looks for the path of least resistance, soft tissues. Magnesium also controls parathyroid hormone, PF, which works hand in hand with vitamin D to regulate calcium levels. Low magnesium increases PEth, which increases bone resorption, pulling calcium out of the bones into the blood. Over time, this weakens bone density. So ironically, the very supplement people take to strengthen their bones, vitamin D, can, without magnesium, begin weakening them instead. Again, the breakdown is not random. It is a result of the body trying to protect itself. But without the right tools, without enough magnesium, it cannot do so effectively. What's also important is the emotional and cognitive toll this imbalance can create. Calcium excess in the brain can cause heightened neural activity, leading to anxiety, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and in some cases, even depressive symptoms. Magnesium, by contrast, helps relax neural firing. It promotes calm, it buffers the brain against overactivation. So if you've been taking vitamin D for mood support but find yourself feeling more on edge, more tense, more fatigued, it might not be a psychological issue. It might be a mineral mismatch. This is where nuance becomes essential. Optimal health is not about stacking supplements based on isolated benefits. It's about understanding the relationships. Vitamin D and calcium don't work in isolation. Neither does magnesium. They are part of a feedback system, one that evolved over millions of years to operate in balance. When you disrupt one axis without addressing the others, the system compensates as best it can. But compensation is not the same as optimization. And over time, compensation leads to breakdown. The key is not to fear vitamin D. It is critical to human function. But it must be respected. It must be accompanied by the nutrients that support its activation, moderation, and distribution. That includes magnesium first and foremost, but also vitamin K2, which helps shuttle calcium away from arteries and into bones, and trace minerals like boron and zinc, which influence how vitamin D receptors express themselves. Your bones are not static, they are dynamic living tissues. Your vascular system is not a set of pipes. It's a responsive, adaptive network. Your nervous system is not binary, it's a finely tuned electrical grid. Every one of these systems depends on calcium signaling, and every calcium signal depends on magnesium balance. When you interfere with that balance, you interfere with the very infrastructure of your physiology. The solution is not to abandon vitamin D. The solution is to support it with what nature intended. Magnesium from leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and if necessary, supplementation, preferably in forms like magnesium glycinate, malate, or threonate, which are more bioavailable and easier on the digestive system. The goal is to create an environment where vitamin D can do its job, not in isolation, not in excess, but in concert with the minerals and cofactors that evolution designed it to work with. Your body isn't looking for maximum. It's looking for balance. It doesn't want to be flooded with one powerful agent. It wants the right conditions to orchestrate long-term functional health. Vitamin D is a powerful tool, but power without direction leads to chaos. And when that chaos takes the form of calcium deposits in the wrong tissues, the effects are silent but dangerous. So if you're supplementing with vitamin D, ask yourself, am I giving my body the magnesium it needs to process this effectively? Am I supporting the entire system or just forcing one variable higher? Because in the end, it's not the nutrient itself that creates the result, it's the context in which that nutrient is introduced. And in the context of magnesium deficiency, vitamin D stops being helpful and starts becoming harmful. The difference is subtle, but your body feels it every day. In your nerves, in your muscles, in your heart. And in the long arc of your health,